What's going on? What's going on, everybody? It is the only sports podcast. That's right, the only sports podcast that exists. This is episode 16. I'm Will. That's Casino. Over here, we're on opposite screens.
I can never figure.
I know.
It looks different from my screen to your screen, so I don't ever know.
But what's going on today, Casino?
Do I get that personal?
No.
When I talk, okay. Doing good. Excited for the World Cup. That's all that needs to be said then.
You know what? I was actually going to bring this topic up. Let's talk about the World Cup because it's taking place in Qatar, I believe is how you say it.
I've heard so many bad things.
Well, did you see
I've read so many. Yeah, the interview.
The Danish guy where in the middle of a live broadcast, just these guys roll up on a golf cart and just like basically tell him like he can't film there and they're gonna break his camera or some shit like that.
Yep.
Like, why again?
Well, because they don't want you to see how shitty it is.
Well, that's also the Qatar is where in so it's in the Middle East, which is also very similar to the WWE for a couple years now has been doing a pay-per-view every year called Crown Jewel that takes place in Saudi Arabia. And it's like a propaganda event put on by the government to like appease its people, but it's like funded by like their government, and they basically just pay like legends to put on the show, and then obviously the women on the show can't like have to be like fully clothed from like their neck down, and it's fucking that all that shit on that side of the country when it comes to like events outside of their country.
World?
Is so fucking weird, man. It's like, why are you even having this shit here? If it's like, there's all these fucking things that are on a checklist where it's like,
right. I mean, that's not you like culture shaming at all. It's from just why, like.
Well, it's also not even the culture thing. It's always like government shit and like,
yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. It's like, yeah, it's just, I hate that when it's just government gets involved and like, oh, well, I want to do it. So here's $2 billion. And
yeah. It's also like,
sorry, I'm just, if I'm way off topic here, let me know, but that bothers me.
Oh no, we're probably way out of our depth in terms of talking about international politics on our sports podcast. But as it relates to,
so I try not to.
Dude, my two biggest weaknesses in life: math and geography. So those two topics, throw in other worlds' governments or other countries' governments. I mean, we can throw
Foreign
that
policy.
as number 3.
I can never run as president.
No. Who knows? I don't know. But the thing that is crazy in relation to sports that we're talking about is the World Cup is being held in Qatar because apparently, well, we all know this, the world's run on money, and Qatar was basically like, we'll give you a fuckload of money if you hold the World Cup.
That's what I was trying to get at, like in the probably the worst way. I'm probably going to get comments on it for not knowing what I'm talking about, which I don't. But I do know that the world runs around money, and this is what it's based off of. The World Cup's in Qatar because of money.
Yeah, and then they're like basically making it so reporters and people covering the event are not allowed to say anything about where the event is taking place and only about like the event itself, which is one of those things where it's just like the NFL last week just had games in Germany, and the whole week leading up to that was like how great Germany is and how excited Germany is for football. So it's weird to see the juxtaposition where 1 week later it's just like you can't say shit about Qatar unless it's like glowing reviews, and then they have the World Cup Village or whatever where it's literally just shipping containers like with painted windows and doors on them in like the middle of the fucking desert. Like, what is I don't even know how this. I mean, obviously we talked about it.
Did you see the other one where it's about sorry, dog going crazy again?
But did I see the other one where it's what?
It's reported that it's going to cost almost $100 US for one beer. Did you see that
What?
one? Yeah.
I did not.
Oh yeah, no, that's another one that. Oh, sorry, dropped my mic there on accident. I was going to yell at my dog. But no, it actually has been reported where by multiple sources, so it's not just like a somebody just came up with it. It's going to cost almost $100 per beer. Whether they keep it that way because there's been so much negative press on it, who knows? But Qatar, they're going to do whatever they want. It's their country.
It's so fucking weird, man. Like
But
literally
that's
everything
that's
coming out of
something
that.
that I heard is it could come out to almost $100 US.
Well, it's also one of those things where you hear now the whole focus of the whole focus of this like World Cup, instead of being the focus being on the World Cup, it's on like the conditions of where the World Cup is and like all these like crazy things that keep happening, which are only like more spotlighted by them doing it, if that makes sense. Like if you didn't hear shit out of Qatar about them doing anything, then reporters would just be like, oh yeah, like these conditions are shit. And then everybody would be like, oh yeah, that sounds like shit. And then it'd be like the next news day, they'd be like, okay, let's talk about world soccer. Right. But now, because it's like these
They double
conditions are
down.
shit. And then the next day, it's like, now you were forbidden to say anything. And here's all these reports of people having their cameras smashed. Then that portion of the World Cup becomes a much bigger story because it's like shining a spotlight on how shitty it is. It's just that what the Barbara Streisand effect is what they call it, where you try to get rid of the problem by shining a bright light on it, and it just makes the problem 10 times bigger. It's ass backwards. It's so fucking dumb. But again, I'm sure this is all just leading up to the World Cup. Once the World Cup starts, all this shit's probably just gonna go by the wayside, basically. But
Right.
Casino, you are our resident soccer football fanatic. Who's your picks for the World Cup? I will watch the World Cup this year just for this podcast.
Gotcha. Who do I got with?
Your audio cut out. Is your thing in?
It's plugged in. I don't.
There you go. You're back. Okay, wait. Let me reset you with the question. All right, Casino, as our resident soccer fanatic, football fanatic, who you got winning the World Cup?
Let's see.
So, does America, USA, do they have a shot?
No. I don't think they have a shot to win the whole thing by any means. They're still a young team. And it's finally new to us as bringing in young players and developing younger players. Years past, we would just keep going until players were in their 40s and they just couldn't keep up anymore. But the Brazil has currently the best odds to win at plus 350. This is going off of which site here? Just World Cup odds is all I've got. Vegas Insider. So, but that's where it's at currently.
So Brazil is the perennial favorite.
Correct. Argentina's second, and I think Argentina may just be second because there's so much hype on Messi saying this is going to be his last World Cup that he's going to be involved in, and he still has not won a World Cup. That's the one championship that has eluded him. So that's going to be tough. France coming at 3, England at 4, then Spain, Germany, and then it goes on down the line. US is currently at plus 15,000. But here's
those are good odds. Those are good odds.
I think the US could get out of. I actually expect the U.S. to get out of group stage. They have their first game Monday, 11 Pacific time against Wales. And that's going to be like the latest games you'll get. All the World Cup games are either going to anywhere from 2 a.m. to 11 a.m. are going to be
Jesus.
all the games. Most of them happening anywhere from the 6 to 11 o'clock range, Pacific time. Again,
Just because of the time difference with
yeah,
Qatar and shit like that. Yeah.
yep. But something that I noticed is they are doing a pretty decent job of where your country's located. They are getting you on a normalish morning time schedule as best they can. But I do see that the potential of U.S. making it to the round of 16, getting past that, I think would be a little tough because if things play out, I think France would probably be the most likely team that we'd win because they're in a group where if we come out second of our group and France comes out one in theirs, which they're expected to, we would play them. And I don't see us beating France in the round of 16. But pretty much it would be a bust if they don't make the round of 16. They're kind of expected to make the round of 16.
And
they're actually minus to get out of the group. Moving on from there, they're all plus on the odds.
I am completely ignorant when it comes to soccer, right? All the other sports we've covered on the show, I've watched before this podcast. I like them. I understand them. I can watch them for fun. Soccer has never been one of those. I did watch the which we didn't talk about on the show because I don't think we had a episode after that aired. I did watch the MLS Cup was a couple weeks ago where it was the Philadelphia versus Los Angeles. I did watch that. I still didn't understand soccer. I assume that was a good game because it went to like shootouts or whatever the hell it's called. But I heard the MLS is like shit in terms of.
That's where a lot of the big players go to retire. But I'll be honest, it has the fan bases have started to grow. They are starting to fill up stadiums. I mean, they are smaller stadiums where they play, but they are starting to fill them up. So it is fun, and bringing over players who are towards the end of their career that have played on top tier teams. You know, it's always fun to see them come over and finish their career off in the MLS. Brings more people out, but it has and keeps getting better and better because just like with our U.S. squad going into the World Cup, there's a lot of U.S. young players that are now coming up and like they're actually good at soccer because they've been playing it their whole life. Because the sport has gotten more recognized as they were kids and growing up. So that's been fun to watch. And a lot of our big time superstars are actually playing overseas on big clubs. Like for instance, Weston McKennie, one of our best players. He plays for Juventus currently right now. So like that's a big time name. I mean, I'm sure you're not even a soccer fan, but I know you're not a soccer fan, but have you heard of that team at least?
Which one?
Juventus.
I don't even know what that is.
No, okay, never mind. So it's a big team.
I thought that was a person. The way you were saying it.
No. But yeah, it is pretty cool. And then like one of our leading goaltenders, he plays for my European team, Arsenal. So that's a pretty cool thing. So and then we got a lot of players playing in the Premier League or in the Bundesliga, which is the German league. So it is quite nice that we have a lot of overseas talent and young talent that are U.S. born or at least U.S. Citizenship.
Yeah. So my ignorant, I don't know anything about this sport question is, how do they determine the seeding for the World Cup?
So there's always world ranking because you're playing friendlies, you're playing other little tournaments here and there. You got the Olympics, that cuts every World Cup. It's 2 years. Every 2 years, there's another big event for soccer. So you have a world rankings throughout your year. So that's kind of where your seeding comes from. Your seeding comes from where you are ranked kind of in the world. But when it comes to World Cup, your seeding, you are based off of regions, and then you get picked. Like you get drawn out of basically a fishbowl. Normally, you get drawn out, and then they do different fun ways of showing it. Like one year, like they cracked it open, and then they were in eggs and shit and whatever. And so then it says, this person is playing in Group B, slot 1, and then the next one is Group D, slot 2, or something like that. And
Okay.
so it's the draw is a big day. If you are a soccer fan, it's always fun and nerve-wracking to watch.
So it's basically, it literally is luck of the draw most times.
Most, yes. Oh yeah.
Damn. Okay.
And so we have in our group, we have Iran, Wales, and England.
And are those better teams than us?
We are pretty much on par with Wales. England's obviously the better team, and then Iran is not too far behind. So it's actually England should win that group stage, and then it's going to be a dogfight to see who wins out of the next 3.
All right,
because you need to be in the top 2 out of the groups to advance.
All right. Well, that was our hot football soccer talk. Thank you for that, Casino. Because I don't know any of this. So we'll talk about the World Cup as it goes on. I will try to watch as many games as possible, and hopefully by the end of it, I will understand the sport. Let's move on to the other football, the American football, the old pigskin. I've never liked that there's 2 sports named football, and obviously soccer makes way more sense to be called football. What would you call American football if you could rename it? Handball sounds weird, right? Throwball sounds weird.
Handball's already a sport.
Oh yeah. So you can't even call it handball. So what? It'd be throwball. It'd be, what would you call it?
I don't know. I mean, you already have footy.
Yeah. Well, it's also, why is the focus on the foot for the football? That's like,
call it pigskin. I don't know.
I mean, maybe, but then
that would be fun to watch. Did you catch the pigskin game last night?
So let's talk about the old pigskin, the old NFL Week 11, and shockingly enough, I won last week by picking against my team.
Well done. Good for you.
Thank you so much. I loved it. I loved winning that week under those circumstances. But starting this week, we're recording this Thursday afternoon. We actually have an intriguing and maybe potentially good Thursday night game, which is the Titans at the Packers. Who you got for this one, Casino? The Titans currently 6-3, the Packers 4-6, both coming off big wins last week. I'm
gonna go Packers on, or not Packers. Sorry. Totally wrong. Gotcha. Going Tennessee Titans on this one. I just don't think the Packers are going to be able to stop Derrick Henry.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so either.
That's where I'm going.
I agree with you. I also picked Titans, and I think it's for pretty much the same reasons you said. Only thing that is giving me red flags is obviously it's in Lambeau, right? And who knows what the weather is going to be like, because when we get to that Buffalo game, they're expecting like 6 feet of snow for that game against the Browns. So I don't even know if they'll even play that game, but the Titans ruled out for tonight's game their center, Ben Jones, with a concussion, Amani Hooker, their safety with a shoulder injury, their kicker has been ruled out, and their outside linebacker.
That's so crazy.
So in terms of the center, the safety, all those positions, right? Because the center, that means there might be some bobbled snaps or some mishandled snaps.
This is supposed to be snowy too.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like those conditions, you might, with a new center, with a new kicker, like especially in those conditions, like they always talk about when it's that cold, as it probably will be in Lambeau, how the ball like freezes up and just becomes harder to hit. And I don't know. I think especially after last week, if the Packers can keep up the momentum with who was the rookie wide receiver? It
Hazard.
was no, the rookie one who went
Oh,
off on the Cowboys last week. I will look up his name. I think it was Watson.
when can I pull this up?
It was Christian Watson. He had 3 touchdowns against the Cowboys. So now maybe if Aaron Rodgers finally has a reliable target like he did last week, he'll actually maybe be able to light it up. But
So
we've
are
seen
you picking the Packers?
I don't know. I
Let's
don't
get to it.
No, I'm picking the Titans. I'm picking
right.
the Titans. But I do think it'll be an interesting game to watch. But I really think if I was doing my power rankings right now, I think I would have this Titans team in the top 4. I think the only team, no, top 5.
Top
I
5.
think I would have Chiefs number 1, Eagles 2, and then I think I would have Dolphins, Titans, and Vikings. That'd probably be my top 5 right there. I don't know if I'd put them in that order, but I think I really like the Titans. I don't know why everybody's underselling them. They shut down the Chiefs team, which we've seen one team do this entire season, and that was
Right.
like a fluky game. Next up, now we move to the Sunday games. The 3-7 Chicago Bears at the 4-6 Atlanta Falcons. Despite their records, this is probably going to be a really fun, entertaining game. We have Mariota, we have Fields, we have a Bears defense that can't stop anybody against a Falcons defense that can't stop anybody. So who you got for this one?
And you saying that, I'm going to go with Chicago on this one. It is an upset. Atlanta's -3, but I'm going to go with Chicago on this one because I think Justin Fields is just going to run all over the Falcons if he has to, which he will have to.
He'll definitely
I'm going Chicago on this one because even though I like watching Mariota play, I think it's going to come down to the quarterback play in this game, and I trust Justin Fields right now over Marcus Mariota, and that's where my pick's coming from. So I'm going Chicago.
I am right there with you for pretty much the same reasons. Interestingly enough, Chicago and Atlanta, both 26th and 27th in the league in points per game allowed. Only difference between them is 0.3 points. So not even a full point different in how many points they allow a game. And obviously they're 6th and 7th worst in the league. So I feel like this will be high scoring. I feel like this game's going to look a lot like the Bears Lions game last week, right? Where it ended 31-30 and lost me my parlay card, and that will basically guarantee that I do not bet this game either way.
There's so many players hurt on both teams. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. So you can't, I have trouble being like, oh, well, that one person or that team's got more injuries than the other team. They're both beat up in every position. So it comes down to which quarterbacks can be better and be able to, get away from the, backup linebackers and all that being out there. They're going to need a scramble. And I just take Justin Fields over that.
I completely agree, especially when we saw maybe the roughest Marcus Mariota game last week on Thursday night, where he just looked bad. Like, maybe the first time all season he's looked legitimately bad and legitimately made you question or answer the question of why has it taken him this long to be a starting quarterback in the NFL again? Like, that Thursday night was exactly why, but I don't think he'll have any problem against this Bears defense, but we're both picking the Bears because of Justin Fields, basically. Next up, my team, Casino, who has signed 2 defensive tackles, one being Ndamukong Suh within the past 2 days to stop their abysmal run defense, go against the 4-5-1 Jeff Saturday led Indianapolis Colts. Eagles at the Colts. Eagles now 8-1. Who you got in this game, Casino?
I mean, Colts are trending. No, I'm going to Eagles 100%. Like you said, like that, they're going to be able to really work on that stopping the run with the Colts, and for that reason, I think I'm going Philly. They fixed a spot that needed to be fixed.
I
So
think I think the Colts are a sneaky good team. I don't think they're a great or really anything will come out of this team. Maybe, I guess, well, in the AFC South, they're still what, 2.5 games behind the Titans. So I don't even think they'll sniff the playoffs or anything like this, but they definitely fight every week. But we talked about the Jeff Saturday coaching debut against the Raiders, but the Raiders at this point are probably what, the worst team in the NFL, if not one of the worst three in the NFL.
I
So, and
agree.
they barely
But
won.
I just don't think the Eagles coming off of that loss, they're going to take it lightly. I think they're going to come out and be pissed. So I'm
I
going with
mean,
the Eagles.
fingers crossed, hopefully. They obviously lost their tight end on Monday on that egregious no call on the face mask. They're trying to shore up that defensive line, obviously really missing Jordan Davis for run support, which when he's on the field, the opposing running back gets 3 yet less yards a carry just with his presence on the field, which is fucking insane. Like, that's a crazy stat. But
Right.
in Ndamukong Suh, they also signed the former Vikings defensive tackle, the Pro Bowler, Linval Joseph. So this Eagles defense has always been great on the D line just because they can plug and play so many different bodies, right? That's why they got the Bears, Robert Quinn at the trade deadline, just so they can keep switching up that defensive front. I think they'll do enough to beat this Colts team, but I went to the Eagles bar on Monday with my wife. She had her friend and her boyfriend who came with us. And her friend said a very interesting thing, which I was like, yeah, like, I can't believe it hasn't happened yet. Even though I look back and it did, where it was like, this Eagles team has been dominant in most of the games they played, but they have not blown out one team. The only team they blew out was the Vikings on Monday Night Football. So she just turned to me and she was just like, it'd be real fucking nice if they could just blow out a team for once. And I fucking agree. So can you please, Eagles, blow out this Colts team? It'll restore my faith in just humanity as a whole. And for the first time all season, Casino, I'm picking the Eagles to win this game.
Fair enough.
My streak ended last week, so now it's open
Open
territory.
season.
Open
Got
season
it.
on picks, Eagles. Next up, it just ended up this way on the schedule. We are now talking about your team, which I feel like happens all the time, right? They always
Yeah.
put the Eagles and Patriots games next to each other. Uh, the 6-3 New York Jets at your 5-4 New England Patriots. What I am first before I ask who you got in this, what is the line for this game?
-3 for New England.
I kind of agree with that. I think
Mm-hmm.
before you make your pick, I think it's going to be the Patriots, because if Zach Wilson, that motherfucker, our favorite quarterback in the league, just in terms of who he's betting, if he goes in to New England
He's
and
betting.
beats a Bill Belichick defense, Bill Belichick should retire. Zach Wilson he's been god awful this season, Casino. God awful.
Oh yeah, and Belichick's going to work him again. I'd be blown away shocked if Belichick loses to Zach Wilson. He hasn't yet. He's owned Zach Wilson. There's been so many turnovers by the Jets when they play the Patriots with Zach Wilson at the helm. I'm going Patriots on this one. -3. I'd probably put more like 6, 5, something around there. I just think the Jets are going to have too many turnovers, and it's going to be kind of like last game where the Patriots didn't blow out the Jets. They beat the Jets, and they
Yeah.
still had like 4 turnovers on them. So it's going to have to come back down to that, where you saw what just happened. The Jets, who they just beat. So, I mean, they're not a bad team. They're a damn good team. But I think the Patriots defense and Belichick against Zach Wilson, until proven otherwise, I'm going to go with Bill Belichick against Zach Wilson. The teams themselves, The Jets are probably right there with the Patriots on skill level wise.
Yeah.
That I just think it's going to come down to, can Zach Wilson protect the football against Belichick defensive schemes? I don't think so, because he hasn't shown me that anytime they've played him. It's been interception after interception after interception. I think Matt Judon is going to have at least 2 sacks, probably 3. I'm really hoping for 4. He's going to definitely be pressuring the hell out of. They're going to probably double Matt. And then, but if you do that, then you're going to have Wise on the other side, who last game was also getting to Wilson. So I'm going Patriots just because I think Belichick knows how to pressure Zach Wilson into throwing picks, because that's how it's been all the games that we've played against the Jets with him at the helm. So that's where I'm going with that. Belichick beats Zach Wilson.
I mean, bold claim. But the greatest football coach of all time beats Zach Wilson. Take it to the bank. You heard it here first. You won't get that kind of guarantee on any other sports show. But weirdly enough, I just talked about how for some reason our teams, especially this season, always appear to be right next to each other. On the rush yards per game allowed, the New England Patriots are 19th. The Eagles are 20th. So, and when it comes to the run game, they both allow on average 4.7 yards a carry. The Eagles allow 124.8 yards rushing per game. The Patriots allow 120.7. So those two, and then on the other defensive stats, they're like wildly different. But just in terms of rush defense, they're basically the same, which is crazy because I would have thought your team was way better on rushing defense than my team, which feels like a sieve.
If you could get to the outside on the Patriots, it's over. They can't stop the outside because they play such a loose zone defense, the bend not break defense. So they if you get to the outside, it's over.
See, and that's crazy because with my team, we have just small athletic guys on the D line. So it's always right up the middle. And then they just get pushed around because they're not big fat guys, which is why Jordan Davis helped so much, because he's a giant person who just, you put right in the middle. So hopefully them getting 2 giant guys they could just put right in the middle helps that with the Eagles. But with the Patriots,
if you could get by the edge rushers of the Patriots, there's not going to be anybody near you for 5 to 8 yards.
Yeah. And also we'll see how the Jets just came off a bye. Now they have James Robinson because they lost Breece Hall to the season ending. I believe it was ACL.
But the Patriots are coming off a bye as well.
Yeah. And also I feel like, we're also both picking the Patriots, and I feel like that's the main reason right there, right? You gave Bill Belichick an extra week to prepare for a Jets team that doesn't feel as good as their record indicates, and they're losing guys, and they have Zach Wilson at quarterback.
Well, Belichick's going to make this go for 14 in a row against the Jets. So,
well, there you go. I'd make it 15. Actually, we'll make it 20. When do the Jets ever beat the Patriots? But next up, we have the Eagles slaying Washington Commanders, now at 5-5, at the 1-7-1 Houston Texans. Carson Wentz was cleared to start, did not practice all week. They're still going with Heineke because why wouldn't they? He's 3-1 in his last 4 starts. Yeah, I don't think there's much to talk about in this game. I think the Commanders are just a better team. They're also getting Chase Young back for this game, I believe, after he's been out for
so as well.
Yeah, a couple months.
If I read the reports right.
Yeah. So that may be a trap game because of all the emotion last week. The Texans obviously aren't one of those rollover teams. They play teams hard, but I just think Commanders have to build on that momentum.
Yeah,
and
so physically unable to perform, expected to return week 11. So, he should be playing this week.
Yeah. And weirdly enough, the Commanders are in position for that last wild card spot, like kind of there with I believe the teams in the mix were like the Packers and the Falcons, kind of. I think the Bears are also within 2 games of that last spot. So maybe Commanders could sneakily sneak into the playoffs, last playoff spot. Who knows? I don't know.
Potentially. All right,
But
moving on.
yeah, we're obviously both picking Commanders on that one. Next up, God, this is a weird game, man. The 3-6 Los Angeles Rams at the 3-7 New Orleans Saints. Obviously Cooper Cup out for the season with I believe it was a knee injury, or maybe that was also ACL.
High
And
ankle sprain.
high ankle sprain, God. And then New Orleans Saints are sticking with Andy Dalton, even though Jameis Winston, I guess, there was a toss up of who would start this week, Dalton or Winston. So who you got in this game, Casino? Weird teams, weird schedule.
I'm going the
weird
Saints on this one.
Really?
I just don't. I think without that star receiver for the Rams, they're going to struggle figuring out where they want to get the ball to, as much as they do. I'm not saying that all the other players are bad, but trying to get it to Higbee, Robinson, like they're going to be able to get it to him, but are those receivers ready for the uptake of receptions? Like for the year, Cooper Kupp going from first to Kupp and then Higbee, there is a 33 target difference. So
Jesus. And that's Higbee's the second
and
most
then
targeted, right?
And then after the Higbee is 47. So you're at 51. 51 more targets for Kupp over Robinson. So I feel like LA is going to struggle with, and Stafford, I still don't think is going to be 100%, because he's expected to play, right?
Who?
Stafford.
Yes, I believe Stafford's back.
Yeah, but so like he's, I don't know if he's going to be 100%, and to bail him out, he doesn't have his number one receiver. I'm not saying the Saints are good, but I'm going to take the Saints on this one over the Rams. I think the Rams are just going to struggle on being able to move the football as much as they need to move it.
Yes. So I believe he was out with a concussion, and it looks like he's been cleared from concussion protocol. So most likely he'll start, but I really thought this is where we would start differing, because I also picked the Saints.
He's questionable for week 11, and then that makes it even more reason I'm going to probably pick the Saints here. Not probably, I'm picking the Saints.
Yeah, I thought this is where we would differ. I for some reason thought you would pick the Rams, but pretty much for the same reasons you said. I'm picking the Saints. I just think the Rams, as you said, lost basically their entire offense. Like, we know the Rams there's been a problem in the Sean McVay offense ever since he became coach. They have no run game, right? So they had no run game. They just did it all by the passing game. Matthew Stafford, not even his security blanket, his only target was always Cooper Kupp, who just always, the entire defense would know he was getting the ball, and he would still get it, and he would be targeted 20 times a game and catch 14, 15 of them. So I think he's maybe one of the biggest, like, when he's not on the field, one of the biggest scheme changes maybe in the NFL. Because I mean, you look at like Miami, if Hill was out, you still have Waddle, who's basically right there with him. Like, there's nobody on the Rams that's close to Kupp in terms of production or his presence on the field. Yeah. So this Rams team, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with no run game, no passing options. Basically, they have the tight end, but they got the Allen Robinson, who hasn't done anything all season. So does he finally step up where he's, hoisted to the number one?
That's what I was saying. Is somebody? I'm picking Saints, but I mean the Rams, they could win this game, but you have to ask the other receivers and tight end to step up.
Well, it's also like we always talk about the Rams offense. What has happened to this allotted Rams defense? They still have the best, who many people in the NFL.
And he's still playing well.
Yeah, they say he's the best defensive player in the NFL, Aaron Donald, and they still have Jalen Ramsey. They have Bobby Wagner. They have all these crazy.
We've talked about this plenty of times. I don't think we've really talked about it on this show, but or that this podcast. But Ramsey's Swiss cheese, man.
Oh yeah,
He's not as good as everybody makes him out to be. He got paid, and now I'm sure there's regret on that.
Yeah, the Rams are only allowing the fourth least amount of points per game, 22.2, but they've been losing games because their offense can't put up any points. So I don't know. They're also not getting to opposing quarterbacks. They're 25th in the league in most sacks that the defense has gotten. So that's the recipe for how you beat this team. You score more than 3 touchdowns and you don't let them hit your quarterback. And here we are, 3-7, worst start by a Super Bowl champion in NFL history. So rough year if you're a Rams fan. Luckily, because they're in LA, there aren't many Rams or Chargers fans. So nobody's that heartbroken. Next up, Casino, a game that again, breaking news on the podcast as of 22 minutes ago with this next game. Cleveland Browns 3-6 at the 6-3 Buffalo Bills. The game has been moved. We talked about earlier in the podcast how this game was going to have 6 feet of snow in Buffalo. This game has been moved to Ford Field in Detroit. So they will now be playing this game in a dome instead of outside in the snow, which sucks because those games are always fun to watch. And
you should get paid millions of dollars. Just do it. Buffalo fans will show up. You know that.
Yeah, I still remember that Eagles Steelers game where they played in the snow. It was like, it's just a cool setting for a football game.
I still remember the Patriots Raiders game.
That's true, in snow. Huh.
Nothing happened that game.
Yeah, the start to a dynasty, and nothing else to say about that. But
did you watch this the last night? There was the West Michigan Central Michigan game.
I did not. I was watching NBA.
It was look at the highlights of that. If they're talking about issues of snow, I mean it's not 6 feet, but it was still like shin level high that they had to keep brushing off. So
did you see, speaking of just random, I love how the MAC puts on random games, I think like on Tuesday or Wednesday nights. I believe this week it was Tuesday. Did you see that Toledo game? That the Toledo college football game that happened a couple nights ago? Dude, it was the MAC.
Was it Tuesday night? No, I didn't watch that one.
Man, they put on just
watching the Golden Knights and the Rebels.
They just put on some fun games. It was Tuesday night. It was Bowling Green against Toledo. Bowling Green won 42-35. It was it was a fun game. It was a good game to watch. I like how Tuesday is just dedicated to MAC football. It's nice. But I honestly would have probably picked the Browns in an upset pick if they were playing outside in the snow, just because I feel like the Browns are more built like offensively, you know, with their running game, their 2-back punch in the snow, and then the Bills kind of have the Rams issue where they don't really have a rushing game outside of their quarterback. But now that it's in a dome, I mean, this is Bills all day. I was going
to be right there with you. I was going to take Cleveland for those reasons. And I mean, yeah, I was, even though it was in Buffalo in the snow, you're going to have to run the ball and who's got the better running game. And I mean, even and then you say Josh Allen as a quarterback is running. Well, Jacoby Brissett is also a decent running quarterback.
That's true.
So I was going to take that all day, but now it's in a dome. As of 22 minutes ago, I'm taking Buffalo on this one. I switched my pick.
Well, also the Buffalo Bills defense is 7th best in the league against the run. They're only allowing 109.
Yeah, but if it was in the snow, like,
Oh yeah, I think you throw that out the window. But now I'm saying that it's in a dome and the conditions aren't a factor. Like,
Oh yeah, they're gonna take on Cleveland now. So I'm going Buffalo for this pick.
yeah, I agree. Also, the Browns are 19th in the league in pass yards allowed. So I expect Josh Allen. I expect this to be the rebound game for the Bills, right? Everybody has already
Right.
written off the Bills, kind of me included, because I feel like at this moment, I feel like I would take three AFC teams ahead of them. The three teams being Chiefs, Titans, Dolphins, maybe Ravens, just because they're multifaceted on the offense. But I don't know. I don't know, Casino. Bills, they got to show me something here to win back my love and support for the Bills.
Gotcha.
Next up, I just mentioned them, the 3-7 Carolina Panthers at the 6-3 Baltimore Ravens coming off a bye
This is a
week.
huge spread.
Oh God,
Baltimore
what
by
is it?
13.
13. Dear Lord.
I mean,
Uh,
I don't agree with that, but I
I'm
am
not
going to take Baltimore on this one. Just as you said, they've got the multifacet to their game. I don't think Carolina is going to be able to stop their offense from moving. Um, elaborate on that a little bit. I think I hear my kid, so continue.
Yeah, so I am also picking the Baltimore Ravens for pretty much the reasons Casino said. They're also coming off a bye. John Harbaugh, got an extra week to prepare for a Carolina Panthers team that I believe they will be starting Baker Mayfield in this game. So I always say they can't get worse than PJ Walker, but they can't get worse than PJ Walker, but they are starting Baker Mayfield in this game, so he'll be slightly better. I don't know, maybe he'll be way better with this
Yeah, Walker's
reemergence
out
of a
right now.
run game, like a two back run game the Carolina Panthers now have. But yeah, I think it's Baltimore Ravens. Panthers kind of feel like the Raiders or the Texans, where they put up a fight, but they just don't have enough of the talent to basically finish those fights. So we're both
Yeah.
going Ravens. Casino. Next up, I think a sneaky, entertaining game potentially, but a bad matchup on paper. The Detroit Lions 3-6 at the 7-2 New York Giants. Who you got for this one, Casino?
I'm going to take Detroit on this one because we've talked about the decline of New York.
Ooh.
Um, I think it's time, and I think Detroit showing some fight last week. I think that's going to spark them. The last 2 weeks, but I think that's going to spark them into rolling and beating the Giants on this one. Not saying the Giants are going to play bad. I think uh, it's -3 for the Giants. I think this is going to be a close game, but I do think. I mean, it could even happen like what happened last week. I think a 1-point win for Detroit, but I think they're going to get it pulled off. That's my hot upset there.
Casino wants to pull off a lion, is all I heard in that prediction right there. But I mean, we do live in Las Vegas. The Secret Garden is right down the street.
I'm going to the zoo on Thursday in San Diego, so next
Oh
Thursday.
man, foreshadowing.
Whew.
Now I was
You get a breaking
also
news alert, from the San Diego Zoo next Thursday on Thanksgiving. You don't even need to bother. You know what happened.
yeah. I forgot next Thursday is Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. Yeah.
We're gonna have to talk about the podcast, Casino. What we do with it, who knows? I just remember this. But
Yeah, I won't be able to do it on Thursday. I could probably do it on Friday. I could do it on Friday.
all right, so we might just put the podcast off till Friday next week. The first episode will still have Monday. But I was right there with you where I was going to pick the Lions to upset the Giants until I was looking up the stats. The Detroit Lions are the second worst in the league in rush defense, allowing 161 yards a game, which
But
is
we've known this. We've known all of this.
yeah. And
They've
then
played
Justin
those.
Fields ran for 180 yards on them last week.
Yeah, but they still won. Because I mean, is New York's
Oh, that's
defense going
true.
to be good enough?
That's true.
I'm just going to go Detroit on this one. I think they're feeling it, and the Giants are due for a loss. I mean, Giants going 8-2. I would lose my mind.
I can't believe this is what I hate and love about the NFL. The Eagles are having their best season maybe ever. And then the NFC East, who for years everybody was like, this is the worst division in football. All of a sudden, they have the Cowboys and Giants who are having like career years against this Eagles team that's having like the best season they've ever had. So that's why I hate and love the NFL. But I don't now I don't want the Lions to lose this game. I will be rooting for the Lions, obviously, because the Giants are in my division. But the Giants only being a game back on the Eagles, and we still have to play each other twice, like that's a scary thought to me, especially when they get the kind of end of season break that the Eagles got beginnings of the season break, where they're just playing cupcakes after cupcakes, basically the next couple weeks. They just played the Texans. Now they're playing the Lions. Then they play the Cowboys, which will, be a test. And then they get Commanders, Eagles, Commanders, Vikings, Colts, Eagles. So they were in that spot where they were playing, the Jaguars, the Titans. This is the last of it. And then all of a sudden it's a race basically to the end. So yeah, I don't know. Last 2 months of this season are going to be real good. There's a lot of like really tight races between teams that are, in a month from now, nobody has anything locked up. A month from now, every single seed could be in a different position. Like that's crazy, especially when we're talking about these games where it's so many 6-7 win teams against 3-win teams. Like it's crazy we still have that much like undecided. But I'm picking the Giants just because I don't trust this Lions defense, but I want the Lions to win. Next up, a game I will not watch literally 1 second.
Let's not even just talk about. Let's just make our pick on it.
The 2-7 Raiders at the 3-6 Denver Broncos. I'm picking Broncos.
I'm picking Broncos. I want the Raiders to lose. I want the tickets to be dirt cheap when December 18th comes around. So.
This is now we're officially on this podcast at Raiders ticket price watch. So we should actually, Casino, pull up what the tickets are now. I'll write it down and then we'll see if they go down as of next week.
You got it. I'm pulling it up on a Game Time app.
So
we're not sponsored. We're not sponsored by them, but that's who I'm going to pull it up.
I always buy my tickets at SeatGeek.
That's fair. I like them too.
So whichever one wants to sponsor us, you will be the official ticket price sponsor of, except for Ticketmaster, because I fucking hate Ticketmaster.
Everybody does. So this in for, let's see. I'm finding ticket Upper Bowl. The cheapest I see here. This is all in. This is fees included. This is everything. $278, which is still ridiculously high.
That is very high. $278. We will see how.
Okay. Like 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, they were over 400. So they've already dropped like 130.
So at the moment, they're 278. We will check back with some hot ticket talk next week. Also, Casino, before we get into the next game, you want to quickly do Casino's fantasy corner? Anything to talk about with your fantasy team? We're almost through all the games, and you have yet to mention
in shambles. My fantasy team is in shambles right now because of all the injuries. Because I had Cup, I had AJ Brown, and I had Goddard. So I've had to move some things around. So
is AJ Brown injured?
He's questionable. So
this is news to me.
He's questionable. It's talking about limited at practice on Thursday. His injury report will reveal whether or not Brown enters the weekend with play or not. He should play, but we'll see. So currently I have him on the bench as a question mark. So replacing Goddard, I pulled Tennessee's Hooper, however you want to say his name. Is it Hooper?
I think it's Hooper. Austin Hooper.
Yeah, it's double O. It's Hooper. So I picked up him. I think, playing Green Bay, I think he's got a good shot. I think Tannehill will be aiming for him quite often. He's picked up in the past couple weeks as targets. I've also put in the flex. I picked up because I would have played because I told you I think last episode I had picked up Wilson Jr. for Miami
Yes,
for running back,
which
but
good
he's on a
pickup.
bye right now. Thank you. He's on a bye right now, so I also had to pick up Daryl Henderson Jr. for the Rams. And now I think with Cup being out, and this is why I kind of went this route, picked up a heavier running game because I feel like they're going to have to run the ball quite often. So I picked him up, and he's starting to show a little more promise. So that's kind of where I am, but I'm still projected to win. I'm still 9-1, facing the 9-1 guy, but my rest of the season, I'm playing all cupcakes, so I should be pretty good to get into the playoffs. I still want that first week bye, but I don't think it's going to happen because I checked out his schedule, and he's also got cupcakes outside of our fourth place person, so which is also a cupcake. So we're going to be fighting it out. So there's Casino's fantasy corner for you.
My quick fantasy update, because I know everybody cares. I've scored the most points in my league by 45 points, and I'm in third just because I get bad matchups, and I fucking hate it. I have the most points scored against my team, which again I fucking hate.
Gotcha. He's above me by 14 points. And then between us and third place is 200 points.
Jesus.
Yeah, we're crushing
mine,
it.
dude.
But I have the least points against, which I don't have any control over, but I do.
My league this year, it's a 12-team league. It's very close between the wins that separate first place and eighth place are 2. So everybody is within. I have 6 wins. The top 2 have 7, and then the 4
scares me every time.
Yeah. The 5 below me have 5 wins. So it's very tightly contested. That's been Casino's Fantasy Corner. Let's go to the maybe potentially game of the week. And that is the 6-3 Cowboys at the 8-1 Minnesota Vikings. Who you got for this one, Casino?
I'm going to go Vikings on this one just because I want to see Dallas lose.
What is the line on this one? Aren't the Cowboys favored?
It's Cowboys are favored by 1.5.
That to me is insane. I don't know how they're favored.
I don't agree with that, and this is why I just want Minnesota to win. I do think I think the teams are fairly even in skill wise, but I think being in Minnesota, they're going to take the advantage on this one. Plus, they're rolling pretty high after their previous win, so I'm going to go.
This is the
Vikings.
The Cowboy bias. The Vikings beat the best team in the AFC. The Cowboys lose to a 3-6 Packers team, and the next week, those two teams, the team that just lost to the 3-6 team is favored over the team that just beat the best team in the AFC. That's insane. The disrespect for the Vikings is astronomical this season. I mean, I don't think they're as good as their record indicates, but they're still potentially a top 2, top 3 team in the NFC, where the Cowboys are. We've seen their much allotted defense kind of crumble over the past couple weeks. Their run defense is obviously one of the worst in the league at 29th, I believe. So the Vikings should be able to run all over them. This game isn't in prime time, so I still trust non-prime time Kirk Cousins. And yeah, I think this Vikings team is rolling. And Trayvon Diggs is going to have to cover Justin Jefferson. So I feel like it's just going to be another heavy Justin Jefferson day.
Jefferson game.
So I think it's Vikings, and I would say Vikings maybe by a touchdown, maybe by 10 points. I don't think it's going to be close.
I don't either.
Next up, the 5-4 Cincinnati Bengals at the 3-6 Pittsburgh Steelers. Who you got for this one, Casino?
Oh, man, it's gonna be another snowy game. It's supposed to be. It says snow, 29 degrees. I'm gonna go Cincy. I want to see them continuing to go well. Uh, in reality, I kind of want them to lose though, because I want the Patriots to keep moving up on that spot list. But I do think Cincy takes this one over the Steelers.
I agree. I think the Bengals defense is being undervalued in the league. They have like the best second half defense in the entire league, and especially against, Kenny Pickett, who's shown flashes, but I don't think he has it. And then Najee Harris kind of just doesn't have his it doesn't look like he has the same kind of production or burst that he did last season for whatever reason. I don't know what happened to him. They also lost Chase Claypool. They lost Juju Smith-Schuster. So it's like, who steps up on this Pittsburgh team that is just has always been allotted for how great they are at finding, wide receiver talent in the later rounds of the draft. So do they potentially have somebody on their roster that can step up in the absence of, the people we just mentioned? So I don't know. I feel like this game's more interesting than the standings indicate. I'll definitely be checking this one out, especially because it's, in the afternoon. They only have 3 games. So it'll be easier to check in on them, especially when I'm not watching 1 second of the Raiders Broncos game, because both those teams are just aggravating to watch as a football fan. But I'm picking the Bengals as well. We're obviously on this podcast both fans of Joey B, so hopefully he continues, just having the ball rolling. Next up, we move to the Sunday night game, the 7-2 Kansas City Chiefs at the 5-4 Los Angeles Chargers. I think this has potential to be a blowout of the week.
The blowout.
I just think the Chargers, they just lost too much. The Chiefs look like they're finally starting to get rolling the past couple weeks. And yeah, I think
the Chiefs did just lose due to injury. Oh my gosh. I have him on my fantasy team.
Mecole Hardman.
Yeah. So he's out right now. He's going on to injury reserve. I have 3 players on my fantasy team going on injury reserve right now. Goddard, Kupp, and Hardman. But
I
don't want to get rid of any of them.
Well, Juju Smith-Schuster is also scheduled to play in this game. He's missing practice, but they only list him as questionable. I would honestly be shocked if he plays this game. There's no way. There's no way he should be in this game.
I still think Patrick Mahomes, they will find a way to win this game.
Oh, yeah. Because, Juju Smith-Schuster, he was out in the first or second quarter last week, and Mahomes still threw 4 touchdowns. He still has Kelsey. He still has running backs out of the backfield. I think Mahomes is really asserting his dominance as best quarterback in the AFC, at least. Definitely in the NFC. I don't think anybody's close to him. So next up, we have in Mexico City, the Monday night game, the San Francisco 49ers.
So stupid. Sorry. My kid agrees.
San Francisco 49ers, 5-4 at the 4-6 Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray, it looks like he will also miss this game, so we'll get another Colt McCoy performance, which actually gives me more confidence in the Cardinals than if Murray was playing, but I still think it's the 49ers. Everybody, I feel like, keeps waiting for the 49ers to get to where everybody thinks they should be, which is NFC Championship like caliber. So they didn't really impress me against the Chargers last week, especially after they were coming off a bye and they had an extra week, and then they only beat the Chargers by 6 points, when we talk about how depleted the Chargers have been. So I don't know.
I'm going San Fran though still.
Oh, I agree. So they're 5-4. They play the Cardinals, the Saints, the Dolphins, the Bucks, the Seahawks, the Commanders, the Raiders, the Cardinals. They have I think we talked about this last week. Last episode. They have a chunk there where they could potentially lose 4 of the next of the last, I should say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They have 8 more games. They could potentially lose 4 of them. So I feel like they really need to at least win the next 2 against the Cardinals and 49ers, and then kind of finish off strong against against the Cardinals. And then they finish with the Raiders and Cardinals. So yeah, this team, I really just feel like now's the time to like turn on the gas, and you kind of need to start building up wins to at least get in the wild card. Yeah.
I agree.
So that is our week 11 picks. I don't believe we have really any differences. I think we only have the Lions Giants game is the only difference we have this week, Casino. So our picks rest on the Lions Giants game, which is, I mean, that's what you come to this podcast for. Suspense.
That's the game that you want to watch.
But let's quickly just do a recap of the NBA and NHL at the moment. Casino.
Yeah, you run NBA and then I'll run NHL. I'm feeding my kid.
So do you want to?
I apologize for all the screaming child work here.
I had to stop in the middle of this podcast to change a dirty diaper. So yeah, this is the father's podcast, the father sports fan podcast.
We're changing it. Yeah. But so yeah, if we want to go hockey,
let's start hockey first. We'll go NBA.
Well, first things first, the Bruins are still on a tear. Still looking absolutely phenomenal. Trying to get to their standings here because
their Bruins at the moment are 14-2.
14-2. They're 14-2. Tonight they do have they have the Flyers, which is going to probably be another victory. Then the Blackhawks, another victory. I don't see a true tough until they get to the Lightning. So the Bruins can just keep going. But with hockey, anything can happen at any time. So going quickly over into the conferences in the Atlantic, you have the Bruins at 14-2, Maple Leafs, and then Panthers. And then a shocking, not too shocking. I knew they were going to be good, but I didn't expect them to be this good. Out of the Metropolitan, the New Jersey Devils, they're actually on an 11-game winning streak. They're 13-3, followed by the Islanders, and then the preseason favorites, the Hurricanes, sitting in the 3rd spot. Wild card being the Lightning and the Rangers. So pretty much that pretty much fits exactly where I was thinking that that whole Eastern Conference would be, with the people making the playoffs, but not in that current order. And then moving on over to the Western Conference, you do have the Golden Knights, our Golden Knights, still sitting at 13-4. They're currently on a 2-game losing streak. They went on a 5-game home or 5-game away stand, which they did really, really good. Brought back 10 full points, but then they've dropped the last 2 at home. They have one more at home coming up before they go on another road trip. So maybe they can right the ship a little bit. Go Knights, go. She agrees with that. She loves saying that. But then the Kings, the shocking one is that the Kraken are ahead of the Oilers and the Flames, which is a little bit of news, but I don't expect that to last long term. The Kraken, though, they can make their argument for potential wild card if they keep playing pretty good here. And then after that, it's pretty sad looking. No other team outside of the top 6 in the 2 divisions and then the 2 wild card spots. Everybody else is under 700, or under 500. So they're not good teams.
My NHL question to you is, looking at that Central Division, we have all the teams in that within 3 games of each other, and it kind of looks like nobody's really taking the reins in that division compared to the other divisions you just talked about. So who do you see currently, from what you've seen this season so far, who do you think in the Central Division is the team that kind of rises to the, the top of this standings?
Um, I said before, like early on, we started with the hockey preseason talk. I did say that the Stars were going to be pretty good, and the Avalanche were going to have a bit of a hangover when it comes to their Stanley Cup. They're still in playoffs. They're still sitting third, but I I do think the Stars are just going to kind of keep going away with this one. I like their coach. I like what they've put together. I can't really see, and then all the other teams outside of those top three, the Jets, the Avalanche, and the Stars, they're all kind of rebuilds. The Blues, though, they've won I think 3 straight here. Let me check. One of them being us. No, they've won 4 straight. So I didn't expect them to be where they were starting the season. They really fell hard, but this 4-game win streak here, I could see them potentially making a good run and pushing hard, but I don't know if they're going to be able to get up to Dallas's tier and stay there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so far it's been a pretty entertaining NHL season. They do I think it's like the Wednesday or Thursday night ESPN hockey games that they've now kind of shifted over to college basketball, which we haven't even really talked about, but I don't really even follow college basketball until
I
it
followed
gets
college
to
ball pretty good. We just have so much to talk about, and as you
yeah.
can see, we don't have a lot of time. I'm finishing this podcast while feeding my kid snacks. So
Do you I don't really ever follow college basketball till it gets March Madness and all that kind of stuff. Do you have any college basketball hot takes or any
I mean, there was
takes?
A good game not the other day where can just go here. Sunday, we're going to today. It's moved back over to Tuesday. Tuesday there was a couple good basketball games where there were some upsets. Where is it here? Michigan State beat in double OT number 4 Kentucky, which was a pretty awesome game to watch. Considering that was like in one of those little tournaments that they do, pre-conference play.
Yeah.
Which was that was an intense one. Also, then last night you did have number number 2 Gonzaga lose to number 11 Texas in blowout fashion. They won by 19, but there's a point there where they were almost up 30 or were up 30. So
Jesus.
it was in Texas. It was electric. The coach is throwing his hands up to the crowd on the side, like getting them into it. So that was fun. And then our UNLV Running Rebels did upset on Tuesday night number 21 Dayton, which is a cool victory for them, which they haven't beaten a non-conference top 25 team since 2013 when they played Arizona, when Arizona was ranked 3rd.
Damn.
I was at that game. So that's why I know that highlight pretty well. But yeah, no, it was been pretty interesting so far with that.
UNLV 3-0, undefeated.
They're 3-0, but they played 2 cupcakes, and then but they did play number 21 Dayton, and arguably, honestly, one of, if not the best defensive game I've seen them play since we had Lon Kruger as our coach. But currently they have Kevin Kruger, who used to play for UNLV under his dad when we made the Sweet 16 and all of that jazz. So, and when Lon was over in Oklahoma, the year after he left UNLV, got him all the way to the Elite 8. So
yeah,
I'm really happy that the Kruger family's here. And Kevin last year went over 500 with a ragtag group of players. But their defense on Tuesday was insane. Going into that, Dayton was number 4 in turnovers produced, and UNLV forced 24 turnovers in that game.
Damn.
So it was really fun, and that's not me just trying to hype up my team, and I know about that. That was a legitimate good upset.
Yeah.
And it was a good upset, and in pretty dominating fashion. They were down 12 at one point, and they came back and in the second half and only held Dayton to 20 points in the second half. But if you go watch any highlights of that Gonzaga Texas game, you should. The crowd from start to finish was just on their feet, electric. It was like you were watching a Duke Blue Devils game where the fans and the students are in it. Like, it's, if they lose that game, they die, kind of thing. It was fun to watch. And then the double OT game, which Duke was playing another ranked team. I don't remember who it was. They had a lot of heavy hitters in that tournament, and Michigan State beat Kentucky, and they just kept showing all the other two teams, Duke, and I forget who they played, but like looking out the tunnel, watching the double OT game because they were going on next. So that was a fun one. So those would be, I would say, the three notable games.
Duke lost to Kansas.
So yeah, and Kansas was ranked, I think, like 5th or something like that. And Duke was 4th. 6 and 4 is what it was. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, good. I mean, that was a good one to watch. I didn't watch the Duke game because I was too busy watching the Rebel game after the nice loss to the Sharks, but that was fun. So do you want to touch on some NBA before we go here?
Yes.
I gotta go find my kid, so continue doing this.
Yeah. So NBA has kind of, I don't want to say it's been consistent since the last time we talked about it, because it's been, I don't believe we talked about it on the last episode, so it might have been a week or two at this point, but the Bucks have kind of fallen back. They were obviously undefeated for a while, and then I believe they got beat by the Hawks, I believe, and now they're 11-3, which would be great if it wasn't for the Celtics reemerging as the top team in the Eastern Conference. Obviously, they went to the NBA Finals last year, but the Celtics, and at the moment, I mean, I don't think anybody's playing better basketball than Jason Tatum. I think at this moment, he would be the MVP, even though, Giannis hasn't been playing bad. The Celtics have just been playing better as a team. They're
even
obviously
over Curry. I mean, so here's the thing. I know I may have missed what you were talking. Did you talk about the slump of the Warriors?
No, I'm in the Eastern right now.
Okay,
but
go for it.
I was actually talking about the reemergence of your team, the Celtics,
the Celtics. Yeah.
As the number one team on the East side, which
but
is
saying that Tatum. I could agree with you on Tatum being a current MVP, but it's not always about MVP. Should be about teams that, or the players that are the best for your team at the moment. And I think Curry, they still lost the other night, but he put up over 50 points.
He put up 50 points against a Suns team that just wiped the floor with them. But as far as the Eastern Conference go, it's definitely Celtics, Bucks, and then my Cleveland Cavaliers team that I'm rooting for. They've lost 5 in a row. They are now the 4th seed at 8-6. They're kind of just losing all the momentum they started with. Obviously, that has to do with a couple of their guys being injured. I believe Donovan Mitchell is still out at the moment, or he's been out for a little bit for just like a freak, slipping on the floor accident that messed up his legs. So
as you continue with the NBA, it's my turn to go change a poopy diaper. So this will be my signing off. I'll let you finish up on the NBA. Yeah. Adios, BJ and fans, and leave some comments. We're looking forward to people trying to comment on our podcast, and as BJ was said, he would argue back with you. So go with that.
There you go. So adios, Casino.
Have a good one, everybody.
Yeah, we'll see you Monday. So yeah, just wrap up the NBA talk. The Celtics Bucks obviously have asserted themselves. Cavaliers falling back. Hawks kind of being in that 3rd spot, as they usually are, with always in the mix. They just have never had that like superstar player to put them over, the better NBA teams, especially in the East, when LeBron was there. And obviously with Giannis, and now contending with the Celtics team. Obviously the Sixers, they've kind of been back and forth with. The Hawks have found Trae Young, but he's one of the best players in the NBA, but for some reason we haven't really seen him have that much playoff success. I know he upset the Sixers last year, but I don't know. Just the Hawks always feel like they're just one piece away, even with Trae Young. Maybe he will be the piece that finally gets them over the hump. I don't know why I'm talking about them like they're dead when they're in third place, but yeah, that's just, I guess, the Sixers bias in me. But speaking of the Sixers, we have the Sixers, Heat, and Bulls, Nets at the 9th, 10th, 11, 12. I obviously think those three teams were projected to be better than they are, but just for one reason or another, each of those teams just kind of have fatal flaws in their team chemistry or team build that is kind of setting them back. And then you have Raptors, Pacers, Wizards, Knicks that are kind of just hanging around in that 5, 6, 7, 8 spot with 9 and 7, 7 and 6, 8 and 7, 8 and 7. So I don't really know if those are playoff caliber teams. We're still obviously too early in the season, so we'll see how everything kind of levels out. As far as the Western Conference side of things, we have the Trailblazers shockingly at the number one position, 10 and 4. We have the Suns, Nuggets, Jazz, 2, 3, 4. Jazz obviously losing the last three, which they're also kind of feel like they're losing momentum, where at one point people were saying they were the best team in the Western Conference. So we'll see. Pelicans, Grizzlies, Mavericks, fun to watch, but they just don't. The Pelicans have won 3. The Grizzlies, Mavericks have lost 2 and then 1. Those teams always just feel like they're as good as they are bad. They always kind of just feel like middling and like they should be better. Like we talked about with the Heat and Sixers and stuff. They're just missing pieces. The surprising team of this season has been the Kings, who just beat I can't remember who they beat. Let me click on the Kings. They just did a big upset, and I actually watched that game. Oh, the Nets, where they just completely blew them out, 153 to 121. Crazy. And then the 2 games before that, they beat the Warriors and the Lakers. So before the season, if you would have said the Sacramento Kings beat Lakers, Warriors, and Nets in a row, like, I don't care what part of the season, I feel like people would be like, no way, you're crazy. But Kings showing something. They're showing a fight, and how they're winning these games, nobody knows. But if you're watching the games, I mean, they just put up almost 160 points against a Nets team that has Kevin Durant on it. So I don't care what issues are going on with the Nets. That's still impressive. But yeah, so that's surprises definitely during this NBA season. NBA season's still pretty young at this point, but definitely entertaining. They've had some great games. Lakers 3 and 10. Not much to talk about there. Casino had talked about this before. He left the Warriors losing to the Suns last night, despite Curry putting up 50 points. So yeah, a weird season, a lot of different teams at the top, which always, at least on the Western side. On the East side, we still have Celtics, Bucks, Hawks kind of right there. Cavaliers obviously sliding back a little, but when they get their guys back, maybe they'll jump the Hawks or just be a better team at that 4th spot. So yeah, NBA's good. And then last thing I wanted to talk about with this Casino, but he obviously had to go for father issues, is the NCAA football, college football. We have the end of the season nearing. We have the college playoffs kind of being set up as what they are right now. We have a solid 4 at undefeated Georgia, undefeated Ohio State, Michigan, and TCU also undefeated at 1, 2, 3, 4. Ohio State, Michigan, they don't play this week, but they play next week, which will be a big game. Hopefully they both survive. Teams, they should survive this week, but in college football, anything can happen in a week, where they both are 11 and 0, big matchup. Ohio State, Michigan, definitely one of those teams will obviously win. Will catapult them to number 1. I don't see why it wouldn't, but maybe Georgia just is too dominant in the games they've played to where the committee just keeps them at 1. So the interesting thing will be, after that happens, after the Michigan-Ohio State game, doesn't matter who wins, because, right, somebody has to fall back. But it's like, how far do they fall back? Do you put a TCU team that every, college predictor was saying, oh, TCU definitely loses to Texas. They obviously don't. And then they that was a weird game, but it was still a victory against the team everybody picked to beat TCU. They won 17-10, so it wasn't in dominating fashion. I watched that game. The that TCU team is weird. I don't know. I don't know what to make of them. I feel like they're a lot like Clemson, even though they're a little like Clemson this year. They're kind of there on name brand, but they're also good, but not as good as their record indicates. I don't know. I just don't trust this I didn't trust the Clemson team, and they obviously lost. I don't trust this TCU team, but I do think they will win out on their Big 12 schedule. They obviously play Baylor this weekend, which Baylor is 6-4, so it's not a gimme by any means. The Baylor has shown flashes of being good this season, and then they play Iowa State, which is it's not showing me the Iowa. I don't know, where is it? Oh, Iowa State's 1-6. So yeah, they should dominate them. So really the last test for TCU before, Big 12 championship is this week against a above average to good Baylor team. So we'll see then, but then that's where it gets really interesting, because Michigan, Ohio State, one of those teams going to lose. It's going to knock one of them out of presumably the top four, which are obviously the only ones that get into the playoffs. So then you have to have the conversation where, do you put Tennessee in there? Do you put LSU? Do you put USC? I think Alabama, I think that's where it stops. I don't think you're putting a 2-loss Alabama team in there. So I really do think it's going to be Tennessee. Tennessee obviously has the big Alabama win, and then they have a loss to Georgia, 27-13. I watched that game as well. That game never felt close. Georgia basically dominated that whole game, but they also, I don't know. That's just that one loss. They had the big college football moment beating Alabama. Tennessee obviously has the Heisman, I don't think he's front runner anymore, but Heisman caliber talent at quarterback with Hendon Hooker. So I don't know. This last couple weeks is going to be really interesting. I do think the top four ends up being Georgia. I think Michigan beats Ohio State. I think it's finally time for Jim Harbaugh, to get that big win. So I do think it's Georgia, or it's going to end up being Georgia, Michigan. I think TCU beats Baylor, especially because they avoided that Texas upset. So Georgia, Michigan, TCU, and I think it's going to be Tennessee. I don't think an 8-2 LSU gets in. I could see a USC with one loss if they run the table, win the Pac-12 championship. I do think they sneak in there, and then I feel like that would be good for college football, right? Because you have the SEC represented in Georgia, you have the Big 10 represented in Michigan, you have the Big 12 in TCU, and then a USC, I think, would jump Tennessee. So you would have the Pac-12. So you'd have 4 power conferences represented in the playoff at the end of college football, where they decide the championship. So I don't know why I said it that weird way, but you get what I'm saying. So I think that would be good for college football to have those different conferences represented in there. But will that happen? I don't know. I don't know if the committee would put a 1-loss USC team over a 1-loss Tennessee team, but we'll see. College football getting really good. That's all we had for this week. We covered the whole wide world spectrum of sports. This has been the Only Sports Podcast. I'm obviously Will. That was Casino. Check us out wherever you get your podcasts. Go to our YouTube page, the Only Sports Podcast, for exclusive YouTube only videos. We posted our reaction to the Eagles being beaten by the Commanders to end their undefeated season. We posted that exclusive video over on YouTube, and it was like a 40-minute discussion where we got into a bunch of stuff. So if you want to hear about that, or just like us, go check that out. Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcast, or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast, Stitcher, Go subscribe to us, check us out. If you want to see our beautiful faces, go to our YouTube channel. So yeah, Only Sports Podcast. This is Will, that was Casino, and we'll see you Monday after a good weekend of sports, hopefully. Fingers crossed it's entertaining.